From Washington, D.C., this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Hena Zuberi. Our top story tonight: an Illinois Muslim group is raising awareness about laws that allow students to observe their religious rights in the state. Although they were passed in August 2021, community members say many Muslim families are not aware of these provisions. These require public schools to accommodate students' religious observances, the Daily Herald reports. That includes allowing students to observe their festivals and to stay away from physical education classes during periods of religious fasting. The laws were initiated by the Northern Illinois American Muslim Alliance, or NIAMA, which is now leading the awareness campaign. NIAMA chairman Basim Iftikhar says these laws not only benefit Muslim students, but also students of other faith. They allow children to celebrate religious holidays with their parents without worrying about school consequences. Illinois is amongst the first state to adopt such laws. Civil rights advocates have filed a lawsuit on behalf of several groups against Harvard University for allegedly favoring white students. It claims the Ivy League institution gives preferential treatment to those with wealthy donors and alumni connections. Nearly 70% of such applicants are white, according to plaintiffs. The lawsuit argues that qualified applicants of color are disadvantaged because of the preference given to wealthy and well-connected whites. This preferential treatment results in exclusion and discrimination against applicants of color. The lawsuit follows the Supreme Court's recent decision to overturn race-based college admissions. Chief Justice John Roberts found universities wrongly based admissions on race instead of students' challenges such as disabilities and experience. A federal court in Louisiana has barred the Biden administration from communicating or meeting with social media companies. The judge who issued the ruling, Terry A. Doty, was appointed by former President Donald Trump. The decision is widely seen as a victory for conservatives. It stems from a lawsuit filed by the Republican attorneys general of Louisiana and Missouri. They argued that the Biden administration had gone too far in its efforts to stop the spread of disinformation about vaccines and claims of voter fraud. The ruling, however, allows communications between the government and social media companies in cases of national security threats or criminal activity. Republicans accuse the government of pressurizing social media companies to censor posts expressing controversial political views, particularly those of conservatives. Experts say that the rulings could have crucial implications for technology companies that regularly communicate with government officials, especially during elections and emergencies. The ruling is a major setback for the Biden administration. Palestinians in East Jerusalem have observed a strike in protest against Israeli attacks on the Jenin refugee camp on the West Bank. Shops were closed in the Old City of Jerusalem. There were also demonstrations and calls for an end to the violence. Israeli attacks in Jenin have killed at least 11 Palestinians and injured about 100 others. The Palestinian Health Ministry says that the attacks have caused widespread damage to homes and property in the camps. Turkey's Anadolu reporter on the ground quoted eyewitnesses saying that the Israeli army continues its attacks on the Jenin refugee camp. The reporter added that Israeli military aircraft continue to fly over Jenin amid occasional sounds of explosions. The city's deputy governor, Kamal Abu al-Rab, says camp residents have started fleeing to safer places. Palestinian officials say that the scenes remind them of the Nakba in the 1948, when Israel forced nearly 800,000 Palestinians from their homes. The attacks have also sparked international condemnation, with the United Nations calling for an immediate end to the violence. Palestinians and human rights groups have accused Israel of excessive force and targeting civilians. Condemnations continue against the Quran burning in Sweden. Detailed segments coming after the break. Stay tuned and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Pope Francis has condemned the burning of the Quran in Sweden last week. He says freedom of speech should not be used to denigrate others. Several countries have also condemned the burning of the holy book. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation has called for joint action to prevent such acts. A man of Iraqi origin burned a copy of the Quran outside a mosque in the Swedish capital of Stockholm last Wednesday. The incident marks protests and condemnation from Muslims worldwide. It has put Sweden's imminent entry into the NATO military alliance in doubt, as the country needs Turkey's support. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has strongly condemned repeated Quran burnings in Sweden. In Pakistan, Friday will be observed as a day to uphold the sanctity of the Quran. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif called on all political and religious parties to organize rallies and meetings to send a message to those who desecrate the holy book. In related news, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, or the OIC, is calling for joint action to prevent Quran burnings in Western countries. At a meeting in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, the 57-member group expressed disappointment that the authorities allowed the burning of the holy book. It called on the OIC's Secretary General to send a letter to the Swedish government on behalf of member countries. The Swedish Foreign Ministry has condemned the acts and say they do not reflect the views of the Swedish government. It also called the burnings of the Quran and other holy books an explicit provocation. The ministry statement said racism, xenophobia, and related intolerance have no place in Sweden or Europe. The United Nations Human Rights Council is set to hold an urgent session to address the recent incidents of Quran burning in Europe. Council spokesperson Pascal Sims says that the UN body will discuss the rise in premeditated and public acts of religious hatred. He adds that the desecration of the Holy Quran in several European countries is of particular concern. The request for debate was made by Pakistan on behalf of members of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. The date and time of debate will be determined by the Bureau of the Human Rights Council. The Human Rights Council consists of 47 members who will participate in the debate. An Islamic political party in Pakistan protested outside the Swedish embassy against the recent incident of the burning of the Holy Quran. Members of the Jamaat Islami demanded the expulsion of the Swedish ambassador. Muslim activists have been protesting across Pakistan against Sweden for allowing an Iraqi to burn a copy of the Quran. Nasrullah Rondawa, president of Jamaat Islami in Islamabad, called on the government to strongly protest in all forums. Rondawa also called for severing diplomatic relations with Sweden if the country did not take appropriate measures. Muslim groups called on the Swedish government to ensure those responsible are severely punished. Muslims in Uganda are also strongly condemning the recent incident of the burning of the Quran in Sweden. Deputy Mufti of Uganda, Sheikh Muhammad Ali Waiswa, expressed his outrage. He called the act barbaric and disrespectful. The scholar is appealing to Sweden and other European countries to cease protecting actions that provoke and disturb the social peace of Muslims. He adds that it is shocking that in a civilized society, someone can provoke the anger of more than 2 billion people without facing any consequences. Waiswa stresses that there is a clear double standard, that while it is illegal to deny or write negatively about the Holocaust, it is permissible to offend Muslims. The Uganda Muslim Council is calling for a single standard that respects the sentiments and beliefs of all individuals, regardless of their religion. The Bosnian Institute of Missing People says hundreds of victims of the Srebrenica genocide still are missing after 28 years. Head of the institute, Miho Hadziomerovic, says over 12,000 bones remains were recovered during excavations of mass graves. Every year on July 11th, newly identified victims are buried in the memorial cemetery in Potokari. This year, a collective burial is being organized for 30 newly identified victims. That brings the total number of graves in the cemetery to over 6,700. The process of DNA testing and investigation is ongoing. Hadziomerovic says the bones of almost 800 people killed in Srebrenica still are untraceable. According to official figures, at least 8,300 people were killed in Srebrenica, including over 500 children and 60 women in July 1995. The Srebrenica genocide occurred when Bosnian Serb forces attacked the town, killing more than 8,000 Bosnian Muslims. General Ratko Mladic, who led the Serb forces, was found guilty of war crimes and genocide. France's top administrative court has upheld a ban on Muslim women football players wearing hijab during matches. The court ruled the French Football Federation can enforce the ban as part of its bylaws. The court says sports federations have an obligation to be impartial. That includes not allowing religious symbols to be displayed during matches. The ban is seen as a victory for secularism in France. However, it also has been seen and criticized by some as being discriminatory. The ban was implemented in 2016 after a group of Muslim women footballers were refused permission to play in a match because of their headscarves. The women, who called themselves Les Hijabous, appealed the decision to the Council of State. The court ruled the ban is appropriate and, quote, proportionate. The court says it is necessary to ensure football matches are played smoothly and without any conflict. That's all from our Washington studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.